All right, well, welcome to our channel. If you are feeling like, I am doing everything right, so why isn't this working? This is what we're hearing. We're hearing things like, I'm consistently applying. I've updated my resume. I'm networking. I'm using AI. I'm even getting job interviews, but no offers. I don't know what else to fix. And so we're here to answer those questions and provide insight. And so a little bit of background. I'm Liz Herrera. I am a certified Gallup certified strengths coach
There
with
you
20
go.
years of experience. And, I connected with Lori Jane and I got connected, and Lori is a recruiter. And so we thought we would provide insight from a career coach and a recruiter. But Lori Jane, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, Liz. Good morning, everybody. Lori Jane. I am 2 decades in IT recruiting. Recently, I'm doing job coaching now. My niche happens to be IT because they seem to need the most help in today's work environment right now. And between the two of us, we have 40 years of experience, and we're going to bring a different, angle, a different side to what's going on in the marketplace. So I'm glad to be here with you today, Liz.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think it's so great that we're able to share the perspectives, from career coaching, but then also from industry and as a recruiter. And we're able to answer some of these questions and really dive in and provide real advice, right? Real insight. All right.
Yes,
So
behind the
l-
scenes.
like behind the scenes, yes.
Yes, yes.
And so when, I'm hearing this as a career coach, I have worked with individuals who have either been laid off or they're like, I'm ready to make a pivot. I've been in the job market for 6 months to a year. And they're saying, but I'm doing all the things right. But now they're feeling stuck and they're quietly losing faith in themselves. Why does this keep happening? And if everybody's doing something right, like from your perspective, from the hiring side, what are some changes that folks need to be making?
And that's that. I'm hearing the same thing, Liz, and I'm glad that you're bringing this up because it's heartbreaking because these people have worked really hard their whole careers, and up until this point, if they were out of work, they could pick up another job within, a couple of months, minimally with minimum amount of work. But people are strong on paper. They've delivered results their whole career, and the resumes are getting them the interviews, as you know. But once they're in the room, something seems to shift, okay? Because they end up talking about their experience, and it's not really how hiring managers are hiring for today. That's not how they're making their decisions, because candidates are listing, what they did, the processes that they did, on the job, the tasks that they perform. But hiring managers aren't deciding based on tasks alone. They're deciding based on judgment more than ever, especially with AI. So they want to hear your thought process. That's what builds trust. So candidates walk out thinking, wow, I answered all the questions correctly. I aced this job. And then they get turned down on the offer. They don't get the offer. And technically they did answer all the questions, but they fail to make the connection with the interviewer. Once you understand that you really need to align your experience with what they're looking for, then it changes the whole game. But if you're in there just talking about your tasks and the processes and you answer all the questions correctly, they're like, yeah, okay, but what's that have to do with me? So that's not how the decisions are made right now. So that's, what I've been seeing a lot of lately,
That's a
not making
that
that connection.
That's a great point because it really is like, what are you here to solve? What do you know about us? And why are you a good fit? And so,
Yes.
yeah, that alignment is so important. And in all phases of the job search, right? So I've also been on the recruiting side where I have been on hiring committees, and someone can be, can look great on paper, right? They made it through the applicant tracking
Yeah.
system, but they're not able to tell that story. And so, kind of going back, depending, because there might be people who are in the interview process, maybe they're not articulating those stories, they're not finding that alignment. But then there are people who are stuck in the application process. They're applying to hundreds of jobs. I mean, this is what I'm hearing, like hundreds of jobs, not even one job interview. So I want to address kind of where different people might be, with a situation that they might be in. And I know you have talked about like the three hidden gaps. So I'd love for us to kind of dive into that. And one of them is positioning.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm hearing from people, it's like, well, now I'm just applying to anything and everything. And people are scared to choose a lane and be like, okay, now I'm gonna, I want to focus on one thing. But they're like, no, they're just like, I'm just gonna just shoot my shot.
Yeah.
And what is it, that pray and spray?
Yes,
Is
yes,
that what they call? Is
yes,
that what it's called?
yes, yes. Just, if I throw enough against the wall, something's
Yeah,
got to
something's gonna
stick
stick.
somewhere. Yeah. Yes.
And so, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, no, don't do it. I would much rather you spend um, 3 focused hours, look for jobs that are an 80% match or better, and apply to those jobs. Absolutely. If you spray and pray, what you're doing is essentially giving yourself a false sense of security that you're making something happen. So you say, well, I sent 1,000 resumes, something's going to happen. No, that's not a strategy. Okay, that's what maybe worked, 3 or 4 years ago, but it doesn't work today because you will get filtered out, you will get exhausted, and you will get deflated very quickly if you do that. Take the 3 focused hours, look for jobs that you're an 80% fit or better, and apply to those jobs only. I don't care if you just had 3 jobs that you were fit for, those are the 3 that you apply to. Do not spray and pray. You will really go down that rabbit hole very quickly. Absolutely. Bad move. Don't do it. Yes, for sure.
It goes back to what you were saying before, right? That alignment. And if you don't tailor your messaging, then you're not a fit for anyone because people are like,
Yes.
well, I don't really know what this person wants to do. What's their
Right.
niche? And so that can feel difficult, right? So like it's like I'm good at all the things. Let me apply to everything, but
Right.
from the hiring side, they're not seeing it in that way.
No, absolutely not. So again, go back to, having a plan. So the plan that I always put together for my coaching clients would be something like this. Pick out the jobs that you are a really good fit for, apply to those jobs. Then you want to go to LinkedIn, find the person that you think this job would report to, let them know, send them a DM and say, hey, by the way, I noticed that your company is looking for, an IT software developer. I just applied online. Let me tell you why I feel like I'm a great fit. Just a very short note to them and say, I look forward to hearing from you. That's one way. Or you can say, is there anybody else on your team that might want to see my resume? You have to get strategic. You can't just leave it up to the gods of hiring, to make this happen for you. You have to take the bull by the horns and take control of your own interviewing process. And it starts at the core level by only applying to jobs that are a fit for you. Now, here's something that you should consider too. If you do that, you might say, "Oh my God, there's only 3 jobs in over 2 weeks that are a good fit for me." That's a sign. That's a sign that maybe you need to pivot, upskill, find something else because there's not enough work for you right now. Because if you're doing a job that is being quickly outsourced by AI, that should say, there's no jobs available for what I do anymore. Maybe that's why I was laid off. Okay. Then you have to pivot to something else. What is a good transition for me in my next role going forward? It might not be a BA anymore. Maybe AI is taking over those roles. So, what is something closely linked to that can add value to companies that are hot right, that the jobs are hot right now? So, those are signals that you can't ignore. You can't just keep banging your head against the wall and thinking that if I'm going to, send 1,000 resumes, I'm going to get lucky. No, use this as signals that this is not the right job for you to go after anymore. Those jobs they're not available. So that's what I
Yeah,
would do.
I think that's great. Like redirecting your approach. And I feel that with job searching, there's a lot of strategy behind it. And I want to share a quick resource that I have found helpful and I've applied some of the that framework in working with students and clients. It's called the 2 hour job search. You kind of alluded to some of the framework there, and it's really focusing on the companies and then making the people connections. So it's by Steve Dalton. He has several editions, but it's called the 2 hour job search. He has a group on LinkedIn. Great resource, highly recommend, especially if you're someone who is very organized and you're
Yeah.
ready to network and really. create that target list and be more methodical about your job search process. I just wanted to throw
Okay.
that in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So he does agree with having like a blocked time to do what I mentioned, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. And then get on with your day, and I always say, fine, like block your day should be scheduled like a work day. Okay, 3 hours in your job search, and then I break down what that 3 hours is. And then after that, add value somewhere in the community. Find something to volunteer for. Find, maybe you can build websites for somebody. There's a lot of, baby boomers that really struggle with technology, and that would be a great market to tap into. So think of ways that you can earn money while you do your job search. So I think that's really important too. And then exercise to keep that, that right mindset. It's really important because you cannot fake confidence. I know you talk about that a little bit too, that you've seen people that are getting deflated and they're losing their confidence. So it's really important for you to stay as active as possible, because if you just hit the computer every day, you blast out a bunch of resumes, and then you check to see if you heard from anybody, yes, that's going to really, hurt your confidence over time, especially for these career people that have spent a lot of time and energy on their career and money, with degrees and certs and all that. It can deflate you very quickly.
Oh, definitely. And I hear that a lot. And I think thank you for mentioning that. I think that's so important that self-care piece, taking a break, because this is definitely not an easy process and there's a lot of energy and things that, even though we say don't take it personal, it's kind of hard not to, right? You're human.
Oh yeah,
So taking care of
absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I'm also hearing, right? So part of some of the hidden gems that you're talking about, it's going to be messaging and it's an alignment again with the the target audience, why you're a good fit. And it's so important to show your impact and all the things that you do, from the resume to the cover letter to your LinkedIn profile to your job interview. But Lori, from
Yes.
the things that I'm hearing from my clients when I'm working with them, they're like, "Oh, but I don't want to brag." Or, can I just share that in an interview, the things that I've done, or even in the interview, they undervalue themselves.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. People that are afraid to talk about themselves, to advocate for their achievements and their accomplishments. Let's talk about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's break into that. So, be interviewing is not about being humble, okay? When I talk to people, I say, listen, tell me everything. Tell me what you're really great at. What are your passions? What do you love? I mean, I like to get them talking about that. And interviewing is the same way. It's not a time to be humble. You're telling them information so a hiring manager can make a decision. You're telling them what you do. It's not bragging if it's your job. If you actually had impact, if you actually saved the company $2 million, if you cut down onboarding time, if you've done anything to add value to that company, you did that. That's your job. It's not bragging if you did it. Bragging would be, maybe you come across that, stealing somebody's, flame or something like that, where you're touting somebody else's job. Or that's bragging, and that's uh, inflating too much. I'm getting off here a little bit, but
It's
but you
okay.
you but you want to just tell them what you do. It's really important that you show impact. You don't have to go on and on and on. You just make it clear what you did. This is the value that I brought. This is what I accomplished. And then that's it, and let them come to their own, decisions on whether, how that feels. But absolutely, this is the time to shine. When you're in there, you should have a list of your accomplishments, and you should be ready and prepared to talk about them, because they expect you to do that. If you're not confident, how can they be confident in hiring you? If you don't believe in yourself, why should you want someone else to believe in you? So you have to change the framework around that and just say, I'm not bragging. This is really what I do. And this is why you should hire me. I'm really good at this. So, I just think that if you change the mindset around that and go in there with just confident in this is my job. Yes, I am good. You have to have that. That's what I think.
Change the mindset. I feel like it is definitely a reframe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I think, one of the things or the benefits of working with a career coach is that I know when I'm working with my students, I'm thinking about my students, it's asking them questions, and then they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize I did that," right? For them to think outside
Yes.
beyond themselves, and sometimes you need a thought partner, someone to ask you the questions for you to be like, "Oh yeah, I didn't really realize that I did all that."
Yes.
And one of the things I wanted to mention, because I'm thinking about when I've been on the hiring side, whenever I'm interviewing someone, like I share with them, like these are some of the challenges that we're experiencing. I want to know how maybe they've addressed similar challenges in their institutions, in their organizations. How did they address them and how were they successful? Because then I know that they're going to apply or implement similar strategies and help us
Yes.
address the
Well,
challenges in
isn't that
different
great?
ways.
Isn't
Yeah.
that great that you do that? Because I teach people to ask that question, but you're volunteering it, so you're helping them. So that's great. I mean, that's a gift. When you give them a challenge that you're facing, you're in essence saying, "Tell me how you can solve my problem. This is our pain. How do you handle our pain?" So that, yeah, that's an absolute gift because people walk into an interview and they don't know what to tackle first. Do I talk about this? Do I talk about that? No, I teach them. Ask them what their pain is. Ask them what their challenges are right now. Ask them, what do you expect me to do in the first 30, 60, 90 days? What's keeping you up at night? What are the fires that you want to put out immediately? That tells you their challenges. And then you can use your experience, just like you said, to augment that and say, all right, great. This is what I did at the last company and this is what worked for us. Or I didn't have that exact challenge, Mr. Hiring Manager. However, we faced something very similar, and this is how I handled it. You do the problem, that you were faced with, the action that you did, that you performed, and then the outcome. If you can remember to talk in that three-part framework, that will help you that'll stop rambling in its tracks. Every question should be answered that way: the problem, the action, the impact. So yes, I think that's great that you do tee up your interviews like that. A lot of hiring managers don't, and then you end up guessing. So I tell people to ask the question immediately, like right in the beginning.
I'm glad you brought that up because in from the interviewing side, and I know we're not, I think this is another area that I know we wanted to cover was the delivery, the interviewing, and we can dive into that PAR formula that you just shared a little bit more. But I think every recruiter is different, right? Every
Yes,
hiring manager will ask certain questions. I know I've been in interviews where the questions are very general and it's up to the candidate to provide context. Sometimes they're not going to ask a follow-up question like, well, how did you do that? What was the
yeah,
result? They're just going to let you talk, and whoever comes prepared and to provide their stories and the impact, they're the ones who are going to stand out.
right.
Now, I know that you might have hiring managers that might probe, that might ask you questions, but that's not always the case.
No,
I think for me, when I'm hiring or I'm in a committee, I ask those questions because I'm like, well, that's why we're there. Like, it's a two-way street. Like, I want to know if, this person is going to be able to work with us and that they've been able to address some of our challenges. So I don't
hmm
even think of it as like probing. It was more like, this is a helpful situation for both of us. Like,
yes,
this is why we're interviewing.
absolutely.
This is why we're interviewing you. Like, help us.
Right.
That's kind of
No,
how
I
I see
agree.
it.
It sounds very logical, but you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, hiring managers, you have to understand that's not their job. Like they don't come from a recruiter or HR background. From my perspective, because I do a lot in IT, they're technical. They're project managers, they're developers, they're software engineers, they're network engineers. They're not trained to interview people, okay? They want to, so they'll ask, like a list of technical questions. So it's up to the technical, that technical person that's going up for the job to do that probing because, they're just, I mean, maybe when you get to another level, like you've been in the interview process and now you're at more of an executive level, that's where they might bring in those, real life situation type questions. But usually the first couple of interviews, it's just solid questions back and forth to see, very mandatory questions that you have to, get to this bar. So it really does take somebody to go in and ask those questions ahead of time and just say, listen, I know you have a technical interview prepared for me, but I'd like to, get some context around that. If I could, tell me what you're experiencing right now so I know how to answer those questions that will help you decide if I'm the right candidate for you. I mean, how can you not respect that? Oh, I'm glad you asked. You are actually asking them to step out of that mode of, question answer to do that. And you are taking a little bit of a chance, but I got to tell you, the only thing that you can gain from that is respect because it'll make them stop that just, question answer, question answer, question answer, and get them to, okay, let's breathe a little bit. Yeah, let's talk about the problems that we're having right now. And I'm telling you, especially in technology, they want to talk about the problems that they're having, and if you just relate to them as a friend, they are going to want to do that. They're going to want to talk about that. And once you get them on your side and you get them talking, then you can say, oh my God, I ran into that same problem last week. Can I tell you what happened and how I handled it? Now you're a friend. And now, you're talking to them like you're a friend of theirs versus just one more candidate through the process. You become memorable. And they'll say, hey, I like that, John, that we talked to last week. He was a really cool guy. He went through the same thing. Let's give him another shot. And that's how hires are made,
Yes.
you know?
You have to bring your personality. And
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I feel like to your point earlier that sometimes it's question answer, question answer. And as a
Yeah.
candidate, you can fall into that like, okay, this is transactional. Let me go get through this interview. But you might have a little more control than you think. So if you are experiencing an interviewer that is asking you more of like the generic questions, how can how can a candidate change that tone and make it more conversational? What are some strategies that you have?
Well, like I said initially, you can stop them in the tracks and say, what's, some of your pain points right now, so I know how to address it. That gets them talking a little bit. But and I've said, and I don't know if this answers your question, but this is a technique that I've used a lot. Let's just say you're in a technical interview and they're asking, one question after another, and they're going down a road that it's a rabbit hole and you just cannot keep up with them. I mean, you just don't know. So I tell them to bring it full circle and say to them, listen, John, Mary, Dave, I understand the questions that you're asking me. However, that's not my area of expertise. If you're looking for someone that does this, this, and this, I'm your guy, I'm your gal. If you need this, this, and this, I might not be the right fit for you. That's it. Because sometimes you can garner information right away that you're like, oh, this is not the job for me. For whatever reason, it's okay, but it's a good way to rescue yourself and save face so you don't get panicky and then you're just like losing it and you're saying, oh my God, this is not me at all. But if they have something else that has those things that you are good at, they will remember you. Now, that's a way to get out of the interview gracefully. But as far as like rescuing it midway, sometimes it's not meant to be rescued. And if it's going off the rails, as I say, let it go off the rails gracefully and just say, you know what? It looks like you're looking for someone with this type of experience. But if I could, this is where my real strengths are. And then again, hit them up with three things. And if that's what you're looking for, I'm that person. But if not, I'm afraid I'm not the right person for you. They'll respect that and then end it gracefully. But, I would just, if you want to stay in the interview and you think that it's worth saving, then I would just ask some qualifying questions, just to make sure that you understand what they're asking. And because sometimes, language is funny, they could be saying, you could be thinking the same thing, but asked two different ways. So just ask, them to clarify. If I understand you correctly, Miss Hiring Manager, is this what you're asking of me? And if they say, no, I was going really this way. Okay. So just ask some clarifying questions and that could help save you a little bit and just give examples of what you've done in the past that has worked for you. So, I mean, that would be my advice.
I love it. I
Yeah.
feel that one of the things that we have to normalize is that an interview is a conversation. And
Yes.
again, it's a two-way street. And if you're feeling like, okay, they keep bringing this up, ask a follow-up question or a clarifying question, or maybe you're like, oh, maybe I'm not a good fit for this. Can you talk a little more about why you're asking this, or is there anything specific that you're looking for? I think clarifying questions are extremely important because you're gathering
Yes.
information. I tell my clients this, like, you're also interviewing them.
Yes.
And I think that changes a little bit of the power dynamic.
Yes, it does. And another thing that I think is important too is, especially in the group dynamic, oftentimes people will ask questions of what they know, but doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the job. Okay. So if you're a network engineer and you start and you have a software developer sitting in on an interview and they start asking you development or scripting questions, instead of just saying, no, I've never worked with that before, because why are you asking me this? I'm a network engineer. Instead of going down that road, just say, tell me, Mr. Client or Miss Client, how much of my time will be spent working on development? That tees it up, and then they'll say, oh, not really much at all, but I just wanted to see if you had that experience as well. Oh, thank God, that's good. No, I haven't had the experience. I don't have experience with software development, but I can do scripting and blah, 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 blah. So you've already laid the groundwork that has nothing to do with the job you're applying for in a very professional way. So that tip has come in handy many a times. I've gotten good feedback on that.
That actually happened to me when I was interviewing for a
Really?
position. Yeah,
Oh no.
there was a person with a niche, and they asked me a question, and I panicked a little bit because I'm like, oh, that's not if that's the expectation. I'm like, I can't do this job. So I did
Yeah,
ask that
yeah.
clarifying question. I'm like, well, how much of that is expected of me in this role? And then the hiring manager was like, oh no, that's this person will actually take care of that. Like you don't this that's not your that wouldn't be your area.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I feel like I was able to take a deep breath because I'm like, oh yeah, not so much that that's not it's not a skill, but it's something that I'm not interested in doing.
Yes,
So, I mean, I
absolutely.
didn't say that, but I just wanted to clarify before
Yeah,
I freaked out. But no, it was I'm glad
yeah.
I asked, and he was like, "Oh no, you're like no, that's not an expectation."
Yeah, but that also doesn't, it keeps you in a calm way so that you don't panic, like you're saying. I mean, you're panicked
Yes,
internally, but you don't
I
want to
did.
panic externally, so you just ask the right questions. Say, oh, okay, interesting. How much of my time will be spent, working on software development? Oh, no, not at all. I just wanted to see if you had, experience in that. Oh, phew, thank God, because up until this point, I haven't had the opportunity to develop code, but and you can like laugh about it. The more human you are in an interview, if I can just give this one advice, if you don't listen to anything else, listen to this. Just be human. Just, address the elephant in the room. Don't be afraid to say, hey, listen, I've had the ability all my life to never have to look for a job. I've always been recommended. So I'm a little rusty when it comes to interviewing. So bear with me a little bit and just laugh. People can relate to that. It's when you become stiff and cold that it turns people off. So people like human. They know that, it's okay. They know that it's a very stressful, high, impact, situation when you're interviewing. So just be real, just be honest with them. And that really does help.
Absolutely. All right, so I wanted to touch on one more topic
Okay,
today.
let's do it.
There are people that are, applying for, for positions now that there's things that are online, right? They're remote or they're in person. And people are like, I'm just applying to remote positions. Like, that's what I want. So they're putting their entire emphasis on the remote jobs. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that is a hot topic button. Let me tell you, every time I post anything on LinkedIn that has anything remotely about remote, no pun intended, it just blows up. Okay. So, we all know the COVID situation. Prior to that, it was very rare to find a remote job. They existed, but usually like for consultants and things like that. But now that people have gotten the taste of it, they feel like they're equally as productive, if not more productive at home. So, I definitely get why people want it, but that is remote work is such in demand. Everybody wants it. So, if you're just, looking for remote roles, you are taking that funnel and you're drilling it down to like 1% chance of getting a job. So what I say, if you can, now some people just cannot work on site. They're not able to. They don't have a car, they have children, they have disabilities. There's a lot of reason why you need to. And then I say, just pray that you get one and just keep working at it. But for those that don't have those barriers, I would say take something, because you are in a much better chance of finding something else later that might be remote if you're working. Now, I'm not saying to take a job and then quit on somebody for 6 months, because while you're in that hybrid or on-site job, you might be able to negotiate with them. You do a great job. You really kick butt the first, 3, 6 months. Let them see your value. And then maybe you can start negotiating a day a week at home. Then you can go to 2 days a week at home. I've seen that happen more often than not, that they, put out this strict policy, but then once they get to know you, some of the executives work remote, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of crack and you can see through it and you can start to work that. Again, you're in a much better position if you would just land a job first, hybrid or on site, and then work it from the inside. You cannot negotiate from the sidelines. You have to be in the game to negotiate. So if you can, hey, it's not ideal. I understand that nobody wants to get up, get dressed every morning, put on your makeup, get into traffic, and go to work. But it does have its advantages too, because when you work remote, you remotely, you are siloed, and the people that get promotions the fastest, get raises, get increase, they're the ones that are in the vision of the executives. So it depends on where you are in your career. Again, if you absolutely have to have remote, I get it. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the people that ideally want remote. Yeah, I get a job first, but I really do think that there is a lot more that you can do when you're on site versus being remote, because it's a quiet, lonely place when you work remote. And again, if you're at a place in your career, you're 50 plus, you've been there, done that, you know how to organize your day, you don't get distracted easily, you've already made your connections in life, remote is fine. But I say to the up and comers, you
Mm.
need to get up every day, put on a shirt and tie, put on a suit or a dress, get into the office and make an impression, make an appearance, because that's how you're going to propel your career. So if you're 20 to 40, I say absolutely you should be in the office. And then, like I said, 50 plus, I put my time in. Every day I worked in Boston, I would drive my car to the subway station. I'd get on the subway. I'd go on the subway for, 45 minutes. I'd walk 3 blocks in the cold and I'd go to work every day. And I didn't even think twice about it, because I was building my career. But now it's different. I can work remotely a little bit. So take the job, to answer your question, take a job, get back in the market, stop the bleeding, get back in there, or start earning some money, being relevant again, and then negotiate once you're in there. Try that.
I love that. I know it's like we go in every single day. Now, this is the part where I feel this is interesting, right? Because I know your experience lies in IT, and this is where my career coach hat comes in.
Yeah.
People who are listening. It depends on your industry in terms of dressing and how you show up to work, right?
Yes.
Because not everybody goes in with a shirt and tie. I just want to address
Yes.
that. Dress for success, absolutely. Like that to me is something that I've always mentioned, and really have a good understanding of your industry. That's important.
Yes.
So I just kind of want to make that clear in terms of our conversations. I know I work a lot more with educators and people in social services, and so just always want to make that distinction. And this is what I love about our collaboration, right?
Yes.
But a lot of the messaging is very, similar. But just anyone listening is think about your respective industry.
Absolutely.
No, this is great. And I think we'll definitely be diving into more of interviews and other type of job search strategies and conversation.
Yes.
Uh, so I think, as we kind of close our conversation here, I just want to challenge. those who are watching that, think about where you might be misaligned. If there's a disconnect, where is that disconnect coming from? And then thinking about your resume or interviewing, are you explaining too much? Or are you not making your value known? Are you having a challenging time talking or articulating your value, your accomplishments as they are aligned to the jobs that you're applying for? And then one of the biggest things that you talked about, Lori, is also, are you protecting preference over probability, right? So thinking about the probability and having to make a pivot if that is going to be the case in terms of the jobs that you are actually focusing on, what's actually out there, remote versus in person.
Yes.
So I would like for us to share from our areas of expertise a
Yes.
small action step. How can we leave our listeners today with a small action step? So I'll let you go first, Lori.
Sure. So this is something that you can try to do on your own. It's very easy. If you haven't already done something like this, look for a job that you really are excited about, that you think you're at least an 80% fit with. Look at your resume, just as a hiring manager would, really with an air of skepticism, okay? And also keep in mind that you have 6 seconds to make an impression on a resume. So you look at it for a quick, 5 to 10 seconds and say, would somebody feel like I was a good fit for this job if they were to look at my resume? And if they don't, fix it. That's it. Fix where you think that it could be weak and really strengthen that area. And all the good stuff on your resume should be at the top or on the first page for that. So take the job description, see if it aligns. If it doesn't, make the fix. That would be a really easy tip for anyone to do before they send out a resume. My tip of the day.
Love it. Well, my tip, again, as
Yes.
a strengths-based career coach, I would say identify one strength that you know you have that you bring to the table every time and write out, right? Journal one concrete way that you will show how you have implemented that strength or how you implement that strength in your organization in a role. So thinking about the strength and the impact that you have had because you utilize that strength.
Love it. Excellent. Yeah. I love journaling. I think that's a great, great idea.
I love
Yes.
journaling too. I'm always journaling. I have so many journals.
Yes, yeah, it's perfect. I mean, these are things that we didn't have to do years ago, but you really have to do things differently going forward. This is the new job era that we're in, and we can continue to hope that it comes back. It's not coming back. We have to just keep moving forward. Okay, take this advice to heart. It really, I mean, we have, 40 years of experience between the two of us, and we come to you with, only the best intentions, and we hope that you land your next job. And we'll be bringing you more of this information, right? So tell us what you want to hear about, and we'll tackle it for you. We can get very specific. This one was pretty general, but we can get as specific as you need us to be. So I like, to talk about storytelling. I think that is a huge differentiator for interviewing. So we can, I was thinking about tackling that next. So tell us what you guys think out there and what you want to hear, and that would be helpful to us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lori. This was a great conversation, and I look
Yes, it was
forward
fun.
to talking about interviewing in our next chat. And so, yeah, so people who are listening, who are watching, send us your questions. What topics do you want
Yep,
us to cover? And we got you.
absolutely. Yep, we're here for you. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Lori.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.